Well, Mauro Cambiaso, we know all Mauro Cambiaso. He don't need introduction, but from the Universidad Andrés Bello. And as I said, it's the last talk. So please, Mauro, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. This time I won't give you a presentation on my research. Fortunately, two students of mine presented related topics. But what I want to tell you is today it's about this Latin American Strategy Forum for Research and Infrastructure, which is, I think, very important. And I will try to convince you that it may be important for us all, especially in Latin America and the Caribbean. So what I want to tell you is an update of what LASFRI has been doing for the high energy, cosmology, astroparticle, and some other areas for that community in Chile, and what are the future steps of LASFRI. An outline. I want to try to tell you what LASFRI is about, what we have been doing, what the role of the high energy cosmology astroparticle community in Chile is for LASFRI, and what are the future steps of our community regarding this initiative, this strategy forum. So how and when was LASFRI born? Basically at the end of the year 2018. At the end of that year, I think it was maybe September, October, there was a meeting of the Ibero-American Ministers of Science and Technology, and in the final declaration, they made this initiative for this strategy forum, and it was ratified, and subsequently at a meeting of the heads of state, this ratification took the form of an action plan. A very little later, within the 2018 CHile, there was an effort to initiate and to formulate a strategy for large collaborations in the region in the areas of particle physics and cosmology. So I will start using an asterisk because somehow the acronym HECAP stuck for high energy, cosmology, and astroparticles. That's how it started. But eventually, not only those areas started to be relevant in this whole story. So don't feel left aside if you're not high energy particle theorist or cosmology or astroparticles, okay? After that CHile meeting, some of the members of the International Scientific Committee of CHile and other people convened at the 7th Afunalwe meeting, the last that we had physically there in Afunalwe. And there, this whole initiative was, so to say, spread to our community. And we initiated this LASFRI efforts in Chile. After that, at the very beginning of 2019, Jorge Alfaro and Claudio Di informed part of the high energy, the HECAP community in Chile of these LASFRI efforts. And so here you can see this email from Jorge, beginning of March in 2019, nearly 50 colleagues were addressed, and afterwards, Alfonso Cervec and myself spread the word about LASFRI among the HECAP community, also trying to reach as many people as we can. And we started to put this LASFRI idea in the discussion. Afterwards, that year, at the end of, at the beginning of May, I remember we had to meet the 1st of May, it was paradoxical. Alfonso and myself, we traveled to Sao Paulo to participate in this first LASFRI workshop or meeting. And once we came back, we communicated what we agreed and what we did in this first workshop. So what are the objectives? You can, of course, you're invited to go visit this LASFRI webpage. So this quotation is taken from there. And this is also like grabbing the ideas that were discussed in this meeting of the ministers of science and technology, the Ibero-American Science and Technology meeting. So it is in there, it was widely recognized that large-scale long-term scientific collaborations deliver lasting benefits to participating nations. And most of these collaborations require large infrastructure. And as is done in Europe and in the US, the coordination of resources for these large infrastructures among different countries in Latin America is desirable in order to optimize efforts. Let me say that this initiative it was not only related to physics, let alone particle physics, high energy, cosmology, etc. It was regarding all subjects of science and technology, acknowledging that large problems require a lot of work and common solutions. In America, we have important problems like access to fresh water, education, deforestation, and so on. But it turned out that I guess every one of the different parts of science involved are doing similar things to what we are doing in our domain. Okay. Further objectives that you could identify about LASFRI, this is taken from Marta Losada. I will tell you in a while who Marta Losada is in the context of LASFRI. Of course, you know her. About the objectives of LASFRI, but basically this two-pronged approach to promote the establishment of the Latin American Strategy Forum for Research Infrastructure and to spearhead the process for a specific field of knowledge, starting with the fields of particle physics and cosmology. So I won't read these goals to you because at the end I will show you, so to say, a summary of these goals. So this is the invitation to the first workshop that took place in May 2019 in São Paulo, Brazil. Most of our activities are being hosted by Instituto de Física Teórica in São Paulo, and also the ICTP cipher, which is all there in IFT. So what has been done regarding this first workshop? In simple, the main objectives of the first meeting were the following. First of all, to gather the national representatives of the community and do a little brainstorming. At the beginning, I must say, we didn't know very much what we should do, what the objectives were, and where to go. But of course, we needed to meet, discuss, and see what these things were, objectives, plan, etc. Okay, so first thing was to gather there and discuss. Second objective was also to learn from the European and similar initiatives in the US and the UK also, and also to present some summaries, very brief summaries of the state of the art in the HECAP areas in each country. Next, to define a structure and organization for LASFRI, and then to plan a course of action. So I will tell you a little bit about all these points. The course of action was first for the national representatives. In the case of Chile, the national representatives were Alfonso Cervec and myself. As I showed you in those emails, many of you may have received some emails doing this consultation, whether whom you esteem was appropriate to go and represent Chile, and somehow Alfonso and I were nominated. So the first point of the course of action was that we were summoned to reach our local communities and informed about the LASFRI objectives. Next, to warn or to call the attention for the upcoming call of the white papers, to collect the info of basically who is doing what and where. That's a very important step of this thing, because we know we need to connect. If we want to do this global effort, we need to know who does what and where. Next, we were supposed to divide all this info into thematic areas, analyze this info and process it. Alfonso was dedicated to working the beyond the standard model physics, and also in strong interaction physics, I think it was. I forgot to write this down. In that subgroup of thematic area, and I was into the electroweak, CP violation, and flavor physics subgroup. Then we were supposed to elaborate summaries of all the submitted white papers, convene again, and report before what was called the high-level strategy group. And from this, we planned a second workshop that was scheduled for the middle of this year. In that second workshop, the preparatory group was to prepare the so-called physics briefing book for the high-level strategy group. And this high-level strategy group used as a product the physics briefing book to prepare the strategy document.
Mauro, sorry, you have 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay, I need to rush then. To report before the Ibero-American Ministers of Science and Technology. So here's a picture of this first workshop. I mentioned learning from US and UK. So here's Mark Thompson. Also here at the bottom right is Nigel Lockyer from Fermilab. Mark Thompson is from SDFC from UK. Luciano Maiani, and in the center, Marcela Carena from UChicago and Fermilab. And also the important thing is that we met with some representatives of the funding agency. At the top right, we see Andres Lopez from ANID and Martha Lozada, Oscar Cobar, both from Mexico and Guatemala. And at the top left, we see Alfonso Cervec presenting the summary of what the efforts in Chile are. The members in the high-level strategy group is the chair is Luciano Maiani and co-chair Fernando Quevedo. For the scientific representatives, Alfonso and myself, we sent an email choosing a representative for the high-level strategy group in our community. That was Claudio Div, and also there are directors of institutions. And among these institutions is CLAF, which, as far as I understand, our countryman Luis Huerta has been appointed a director of CLAF quite recently. And among the preparatory group from different countries, in Chile, Alfonso and myself, as I've already mentioned, are nominated in this preparatory group. So all the thematic areas were collider physics, astroparticles. You see all these 9 subgroups, and we were to, as I said, analyze this information in view of preparing the second workshop that I already mentioned. Unfortunately, the due date for the white papers was due in December, early December. And the call for white papers was sent in 7th October. I mean, unfortunately for us in Chile, because as you may know, by 18th October, we had this estallido social, and I guess that deterred all the contributions of the white papers. And in fact, we had no contributions at all from Chile. But in total, there were 40 white papers received in all these 9 sub-areas. So here is the email with the call for the white papers in early October. And in the background, you see that the detail is not important, but nearly these 40 white papers, which we classified. And here is a classification of the electroweaks, physics, flavor physics, CP violation, strong interaction, BSM, etc. So with that information, in my group, I show you the presentation that we prepared for the second workshop. And in this second workshop took place online in pandemic mode. We met with some high-level strategy group members. It was an open symposium. This call was open for everybody to join. And there we submitted the summaries, and we elaborated the guidelines for processing all this information and merging it into the physics briefing book. And from it, a status report from Marta Lozada, who is the chair of the preparatory group, was elaborated. So this is a snapshot of the online second workshop. And the result of all this was the first result was the physics briefing book. There's a link for you here to access once I provide the PDFs of it. Summary of all the white papers. You see, this is a nearly 90 pages document in all the different areas. And this physics briefing book served as I said, as a basis for the high-level strategy group to prepare the strategy document. And this strategy document was endorsed by the high-level strategy group in a letter. This is a strategy document, it's a shorter one. And the one in the middle, the 2 pages to the right is the endorsement of the high-level strategy group. And I want to draw your attention to 4 major recommendations of this high-level strategy group endorsing the LASFRI activity. So let me read. I don't know, maybe I'm already over time, Arad.
Yes.
The unique regional strengths and potential should be most strongly supported. An increased participation from regional groups in these projects is highly desirable to help position them in prominent leadership roles and also benefit for younger generations of Latin American scientists. For example, Andes facility should be a high priority for the region. This would require a well-coordinated and sustained commitment across Latin American countries to ensure its success and to position the facility on the global scale. We have bad news about Andes regarding the decisions taken by our government, but in retrospect, one could say that had we started working on LASFRI before, maybe we could have made a clearer message that Andes should have been supported from the political side. Another point is large-scale collaborations in both collider and neutrino physics experiment is a key driver in Latin American region. So these activities should be most strongly supported to continue the advancement to future leadership in HECAP experiments. And finally, small and mid-scale regional projects of high scientific and technological impact can provide unique opportunities to the region to be innovative and assume leadership and should be supported with high priority. So this endorsement of the high-level strategy group was presented in the 4th Ibero-American Science and Technology Ministerial Meeting, took place in October 27 this year. And in its declaration, it is recognized and appreciated that the advance, well, I'll read it in Spanish, los avances en el establecimiento del Foro Estratégico Iberoamericano para las grandes infraestructuras, a partir del desarrollo de un programa piloto en el área de física de altas energías, astropartículas y cosmología, cuyos resultados se han plasmado en el documento estratégico para el desarrollo de estas disciplinas, que incluye la definición de recomendaciones y el establecimiento de una hoja de ruta, which is basically what we did in this first part of the project. So that was acknowledged and appreciated by the science and technology ministers of the Ibero-American Ministerial Meeting. So let me take a couple of minutes regarding our role of our community for LASFRI. Many colleagues, when I try to call their attention to LASFRI, in disguise, replied, kind of asking, what good could LASFRI do for my research? What are my interests? And what I want to say is that I think it's also good to start thinking not what good it could do for me, but what good could I do for LASFRI? Maybe in the future, maybe whatever we achieve now won't affect, say, not even 5 or 10 years in advance, but maybe longer. So it's a very long-term project. So I would very much like to open the discussion and draw your attention to this initiative, and please approach any of us if you're interested. Next steps, we must improve the physics briefing book, hopefully to have a definite version by March 2021. And by mid-January, so that's very soon now, we must cross-revision all the chapters of the physics briefing book. And specifically, the next steps for our community is that we were summoned, I mean, members of the physics preparatory group, we were summoned to do a national meeting. Maybe this would be a good time to call for that national meeting, or at least let me tell you that you may soon be receiving an email from Alfonso and myself calling for this national meeting, because by April 2021, we must have newly elected preparatory group members from Chile to represent us before LASFRI, okay? I'm not sure whether they must be really new members or the actual ones can be ratified. So that's all. Thank you for your attention. And changing topics, I hope at least that 2022 version of La Parte del Todo will take place physically. So I expect that by September, October, we may have news about this. So if you're interested, please contact us. Thank you.